If you've been paying any attention to the news lately, you know that we're living through some very dark and unfortunate times as the attack on Ukraine seems to be worsening with every day that passes. Even though the rest of the world is responding with aggressive threats and sanctions, Russia doesn't seem to be backing off quite yet, but there is no doubt that they're starting to feel the pressure. If Russia keeps up with their unnecessary invasion of Ukraine, the entire country will start to feel the repercussions of their actions, and a circle of the most wealthy Russians are likely to feel those repercussions the most. You see, there's an elite class amongst the Russians known as the oligarchs, and this group of millionaires and billionaires have been parking their money in assets like planes, yachts, and real estate for decades now.
Experts say Russian oligarchs launder billions of dollars through the US, stashed in swanky apartment purchases, shell companies, and cryptocurrency holdings.
In today's episode, we are going to talk about who these oligarchs are, what exactly these sanctions mean for them and for the rest of Russia, and with this being a real estate channel, the primary focus of this video will be how these oligarchs are going to be impacted going forward from a real estate standpoint. Before we get into it, I just want to give a quick disclaimer that I understand that this is a very horrific event that's unfolding right now, and my condolences go out to everybody out there who's been impacted. So first things first, what the heck is an oligarch and why does anybody care? We can start with a Google definition which describes oligarchs as rulers of an oligarchy, but specifically in Russia, they are very rich business leaders with great deals of political influence. See, these oligarchs haven't always been the wealthy men, women, and families that they are today. This started in 1991 when they emerged as well-connected entrepreneurs who started from nearly nothing and then became rich through participation in the market via connections to the government officials of Russia. Because of the effects of the Soviet Union collapse, these businessmen ended up in a position where they almost became overnight successes, benefiting beyond imagination from one of the fastest redistribution of assets in history. Now the oligarchs have deep generational wealth. They have their hands in many businesses and industries, and many of them have a ton of influence on Russian politics. It's hard telling exactly how many of these people are out there, but the sounds of it are there are at minimum a few dozen, but upwards of a few hundred elites left who are very close to Putin and corrupt business practices. Because many of these people obtained some or all of their wealth through illicit business practices, it has become pretty common for them to dump millions and millions of dollars into physical assets all over the world, with a heavy focus on luxury real estate in some parts of the United States. Okay, so oligarchs are unimaginably wealthy, and many of them have obtained that wealth in ways that are unfair or downright illegal, but what can any of us do about it? Well, that is where we get into a buzzword that I'm sure you have heard blasted all over the news lately, and it is through something called sanctions. Sanctions, in a nutshell, are restrictions placed on the entire country of Russia meant to cripple the Russian economy and ultimately close off their ability to connect with other countries and other financial markets. The US, the UK, and the EU are all putting big sanctions on Russia as we speak in response to not agreeing with the invasion of Ukraine. Some of these sanctions include banning Russian flights from other countries' airspace, blocking Russian banks from accessing SWIFT, and then freezing billions of dollars worth of Russian assets. Biden also said that the US will aim to start to seize these luxury yachts and apartments that are owned by these Russian oligarchs in the United States.
We're joining with European allies to find and seize their yachts, their luxury apartments, their private jets. We're coming for you, ill-begotten gains.
And the whole point of these sanctions is to send a message to Russia to say that we are not cool with what they are doing, but we also don't want to respond in a physical manner. So if they continue to move in on Ukraine like they have been, we'll continue to move forward with more aggressive sanctions, and this will almost certainly lead to a major recession in Russia down the road. For a small glimpse as to the impact that this has already had on the Russian economy, the price of the ruble, which is Russia's currency, has been absolutely tanking basically since all of this started. Okay, so I know that this is a real estate channel, but we just had to get all of that other stuff out of the way so that we could establish how real estate plays a part in this madness. First, let's talk about the impact on the Russian real estate market really quick, and then we'll move on to the juicy stuff, and that is American real estate owned by Russians. Now, the Russian real estate market has been struggling for a while, actually. They have been on a negative trend for years, and by 2020, the foreign direct investment flow into the Russian real estate market were almost twofold tenfold below 2014 levels, which just shows weakening confidence in the Russian real estate market as a whole. With the Russian real estate market already struggling leading up to what is happening now, you can only imagine the effects that this negative press and the sanctions will continue to have on the market out there. The Wall Street Journal reported on a story titled "Ukraine Invasion Upends U.S. Investor Bet on Russian Malls and Other Properties," saying that there are no buyers left for the product. And they go on to highlight a real estate developer, Hines, who has been investing in real estate since 1991 and is now the world's largest foreign owner of Russian commercial real estate. Hines Bet has generated decent returns for his investors over the past couple of decades, and he has amassed a portfolio of almost $3 billion out in Russia, or at least that's what it was worth before the war. But now people are fleeing Russian assets more than ever before, seeing no growth and a coming recession, and Hines themselves said that they don't plan to make any future investments in Russia. The biggest driver in real estate prices above anything else simply comes down to supply and demand, and it sounds like there's about to be a big supply of Russian real estate and almost no demand. Now that we know that the Russian real estate market has been in decline for a while now, it starts to make sense why these Russian oligarchs were investing in American real estate. These Russians were not opposed to buying real estate all over the US, but the largest concentration of buys were in two places. The first was Manhattan in New York, and then Sunny Isles Beach in Florida. Now, starting with Manhattan, this has always been a fitting place for oligarchs to park cash because the average condo out there costs around $2 million. And with the average price per square foot at around $2,000, larger condos in Manhattan easily run tens of millions of dollars. If you put yourself in the shoes of a Russian oligarch who has a bunch of illegal money that they need to deploy, not that any of us would ever want to do that, then buying in a big city with a bunch of luxury condos makes sense because with just a few purchases, they can hide a ton of money. It's nearly impossible to know all of the real estate that's owned by these criminals because a lot of this real estate is held in what's called a shell company. A shell company is where somebody establishes an LLC who technically buys these properties on paper, and then that LLC ultimately shields the actual owner of the property behind that shell company. So if you're a sketchy Russian oligarch who has a bunch of money that they earned through illicit activities, or maybe you just have a ton of money that you don't want exposed to the Russian market for various reasons, then you can dump a few $100 million into the American real estate market secretly, and now your money is quote unquote safe from being taxed or seized. The New York Post did a piece last week that outlined some of the units owned by these oligarchs that they could track down, and this gives you a rough idea on what's going on here and just how sketchy all of this really is. Okay, so check this out. We have apartments owned by these people surrounding Central Park, which is where some of the most expensive real estate in Manhattan is located. Roman Abramovich owns $74 million worth of real estate at 9, 11, and 13 75th Street, and another $16.5 million unit at 15 East 75th, and he's got one smaller fourth floor unit that he paid $900,000 for. Now we need to look at the fine print, guys. This is where things get sketchy. It says that ownership on all three of the properties above were transferred to Zukova, and okay, why would he do that? So I did some more digging, and it turns out that Zukova is this guy's ex-wife. Why would he transfer ownership of all of this real estate to his ex-wife? Well, I've got a wild guess that it was to get these apartments out of his name to make sure they don't get seized. This other guy, Oleg, bought a $42 million apartment on 64th Street and another $4.5 million apartment on Gay Street, which was once raided by the FBI, by the way. That's lovely. Check out the fine print here. The ownership of these two properties were also transferred to relatives of Deripaska, again, more than likely to avoid seizure. It is totally nuts to see this money stored in Manhattan right before our eyes, and then seeing these Russian oligarchs move the ownership around right before our eyes, and there's basically nothing that we can do about it. Looking at the rest of the list, we don't need to dive into everyone, but you guys get the point. We've got a $31 million apartment over here, a $51 million apartment here, there's a $90 million apartment, an $88 million apartment. The list goes on, and these are just the ones that the Post was able to compile. Okay, so as if what's going on in Manhattan isn't crazy enough, the activity that's going on in Sunny Isles Beach in South Florida is even crazier. First, if you don't know where Sunny Isles Beach is, it's a small city in the northeast Miami-Dade County in Florida with a small 1.8 square mile area in total. It's got immediate access to the ocean and a population of only around 20,000 people. This area saw a luxury residential real estate development boom in the early 1990s, which has kind of created this almost Las Vegas Strip effect of hotels along the beach. Basically, the entire eastern side of the island is filled with these buildings, from the Regalia Miami, Ocean 1 and 2 condos, the Millennium condominiums, Trump Palace, Muse Residences, Trump Tower 2, and of course the Ritz-Carlton Residences. Fun fact, by the way, I guess these Russian elites have a weird obsession with Trump real estate, so these Trump buildings seem to be particularly popular amongst the oligarchs. An investigation done by Reuters in 2017 found 63 members of these Russian elite who spent around $100 million just on Trump buildings alone. What they're doing out here in Sunny Isles is the same thing that they're doing out in Manhattan, which is dump money into luxury apartments only simply to park the money there, and more often than not, they spend very little or no time in the apartment at all. There are videos online which show this strip of beach at nighttime, and it's a trip. Over half of the units are clearly just sitting empty, many of which are owned as vacation homes, and many of which are owned by these Russian oligarchs. Outside of the fact that these people are basically laundering a bunch of money on this little stretch of beach and have been doing it for decades, there's another little plot twist here that makes this whole story even more fascinating. I guess having a baby in Miami is considered some kind of a status symbol in Moscow, so wealthy Russians have been known to spend tens of thousands of dollars to go to Miami to have their baby, which is for a combination of citizenship reasons plus just accessing great doctors and good weather. That sounds nuts, guys, but it is 100% legit. There are actually birth tourism agencies that exist in Sunny Isles Beach that are charging these Russian elites $50,000 or more to help them facilitate the birth of their baby in Miami. Being a Russian woman who gave birth in Miami gives you some cool points, but bonus points if you did it while staying at a Trump property. Just when you thought you've seen it all. These Russian oligarchs have been dumping all of this money into American real estate for decades now, and we know for sure that some of that money is linked to illicit activity and money laundering, so you would think that by now we would have done something about it. A company called Global Financial Integrity tracks the flows of illegal money as it moves about the world, and they have been able to pinpoint billions of dollars laundered through US real estate in more recent years. It gets really complicated when you look at exactly how we would go about as a country seizing these properties and if we're legally even allowed to do that, but it's certainly in the cards and it's certainly possible, especially if we're able to prove an underlying crime, meaning that the real estate was purchased with funds from illegal activity. If you enjoyed the video today, guys, if you could hit that like button down below, that really helps my channel out a lot. And let me know in the comments what you think the results will be of these property seizures in the US. I'd love to hear from some of you guys who I'm sure have a deeper understanding of this process. Anyways, that's all I've got for you guys this time. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, see ya.